Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. Welcome to our Monday, May 2nd County Commissioner meeting. We'll start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So the first item on our agenda today is employee recognition. We have a long list. I'm always struck when we do this by the number of years that people have stayed, which is really remarkable to me. I think it speaks volumes to how great of an employer Whitley County government is. And it also speaks volumes to how great our employees are. So I'll just, I think we have one in attendance with us, and I'll just go through the list. I'll read them off. We have Scott Schmitt, 22 years. Mike Rumsire, 22 years. Jason Spencer, 23 years. Toby McCoy, 23 years. Tyson Howenstein, 24 years. John Barrett, 25 years. Cindy Doolittle, 26 years. Greg Wilkinson, 26 years. Jeremy Heinen, 26 years. Mark Gatton, 27 years, and Mark is here. Thank you for your 27 years. Judge Hewer, 31 years. Jeanette Harold, 31 years. Steve Schuman, 33 years. And Mike Christie, 35 years. Thank you all. We'll get these out to everyone. The next item on the agenda is Attorney Matt Shipman.
Good afternoon. The only thing that I have, I guess, that really to talk about is just the two ordinances that are on the agenda for later. I have reviewed those. I think they're both seem appropriate given what we're trying to accomplish. So unless you guys have other questions for me, anything else to report?
Okay, we're gonna switch things up a little bit, and the next item that we'll address is Chad Nix with the Regional Sewer District.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for your time on this. I know we came then a month and a half ago requesting ARP money to finish up our project that we've actually got some good momentum on. You've all received, I believe, the packet via email. But it really gives the nuts and bolts. We finally got bids in now. The bid was surprisingly on target for the phase one of the project. We're obviously nervous about phase two part with inflation, and that's why we're coming back to ask for those ARP funds. So again, phase two is fully funded. We believe our system, phase one is fully funded, which includes Coessie, Stable Acres, Dumpy, and County Line South.
And if you look on the
back page.
third page is what the post-bid project budget looks like for the phase one project. And you can see there, we had a $5 million grant provided. We had our actual construction costs plugged in, plus our non-construction costs. And basically with our contingency funds, we're not needing any additional funds for the phase one project.
That's totally funded with
SRF funding, a grant, and it's 100% grant.
Okay, wonderful.
Yes, we're ecstatic about
Yeah, I'm very excited.
So for phase two, there was a holdup, right, in the Churubusco area. There was something that we were waiting on. Can you talk about that?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Sure. So Churubusco, while we were working on their project, is also doing improvements to their wastewater system. They were a little concerned about capacity, but they have now decided they're moving forward with the project. In fact, I believe in the next month or so, they're going to be out for bid for their project, which is primarily a capacity improvement. And with that, they have indicated to us and they are now willing to enter into an interlocal agreement between the district and the town to accept the wastewater from what we call the Cherubusco South and Cherubusco West areas. These are unincorporated areas on the outskirts of Cherubusco. And what our hope is then that they'll be working their improvements. We plan to finish our design and got to check my schedule here, but I believe we said we'd like to be out for bid on that late this year.
Yeah, December 2022,
Yeah.
January 2023 is when we'll be out for bid for that second phase.
And Cherubusco has created, we had some older interlocal agreements that were being passed back and forth. They've now presented a revised one to us that addresses some of their concerns. And the board is actually going to be looking at that, considering that here in their upcoming meeting. Our overall plan for phase 2 now is we'd like to follow that similar approach that we're using on phase 1. Not guaranteed yet, but we're hoping for a significant amount of grant funds for that. We know it probably wouldn't exceed 5 million, which is what they put into phase 1. And with that project being a little higher cost, we're coming here today to talk about potential making up that gap with the ARP funds from the county. And on the last page of your handout, it's kind of showing that budget breakdown. You can see our overall project costs are just over $6 million. And we're hoping and anticipating we would get a significant grant from the state again of around 5 million, which would then lead us to needing some additional funds that we're hoping we could get through the ARP funds of about $1,025,000.
So when do we expect phase 2 to be complete?
On page 3, it has the breakdown of the schedule. 5G, complete design by November this year, bid by December, January, close on funding by March, start construction April 2023.
And then we would complete construction in April 2024, which I believe fits well within the guidelines for ARP funding when you have to spend the money by.
And that was my concern.
Sure.
Because I know it's got to be dispersed by a certain date. And I believe, Tiffany, if I'm right, is that 2026, but we have to have it allocated by 24. Thank you.
So with your phase 1 project, a portion of that goes to Aqua, Indiana, right? Or Aqua, what's their name? Aqua, Indiana.
So the money itself's not going to Aqua, the infrastructure will
At a certain time,
Yes.
At
right?
some
Like,
point in the
at
future.
some point.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you guys will generate some funds on that.
Not at this point. We don't plan on generating any funds. The
Okay.
hope is all the connections will take place, correct?
Yes, that, I guess when you say the idea here is what seemed to be the lowest cost alternative is Aqua would come in, after they would operate and maintain the system. Property owners will still own the grinder stations, but the cost of the grinder stations included in our project. We're installing all that. Homeowners maintain it. And in exchange, Aqua will, their monthly rate to those customers would be their standard rate that they charge everybody else, which is currently just above $60 a month. In that agreement as well, though, there's some incoming funds that would come back to the district as each customer connects onto the system. Kind of a, what's the right term, Matt? Is it rebate?
Yeah, it's a developer reimbursement
Yeah,
kind of.
reimbursement. Thank you.
So basically, they're paying us per connection a fee back.
And
for
that would
turning over the
be,
infrastructure to
we're estimating that somewhere around 200 to 220,000. And the idea is the district would use those funds for just their normal operations. They're not going to be maintaining a system, but, just the board itself will have, professionals to pay, legal consultant, financial consultants, insurance, those type of things. So the idea is those funds would be used to fund that part of the district operations. The district themselves would not be doing any billing or anything to these customers.
Okay.
We'd like to see something very similar to that for phase 2, other than there won't be a rebate or reimbursement program. But where, again, the idea would be after the infrastructure is built and customers are connecting, at some point, that infrastructure would be turned over to the town of Churubusco. And we're designing this system around the town's desire, as far as having a gravity sewer system and things like that. So we wanted to make it easy for them to be able to accept it into the future.
So I know that you guys had you were at the last council meeting. And council had just asked if when we would have like more concrete numbers, like when we would know like how much is your like drop dead number. Do you have that now? Like, you know exactly?
Well, for phase one, it's
exactly.
when we were here last with council, we were still thinking we might need it for phase one. But now we're saying we don't need it for phase one, but we're projecting we will need it for phase two.
Okay.
And that ball's already rolling, right? So SRF's already has their application.
Yeah.
We hope to be awarded by
August, September.
timeframe.
Okay.
But, we were quite frankly nervous about where bids would come in. We did only receive one bid, but it was under our engineer's estimate, and we're hoping some of that will carry through on our phase two project as well.
Sure.
We had similar unit pricing planned for phase two.
Scott Wagner from the Health Department.
Yes, I just wanted to speak on behalf of the sewer district. Really have been working at this since 1998 in earnest to get not only the projects we're doing this year, but Churubusco. Churubusco's our largest, let's say, violator in the county with their west and south projects. Those systems go directly to waterways in the state of Indiana, but the county, one to Fort Wayne, one to Blue Lake, and then back. So it's been a huge issue for us. If we can get this first phase done and the second phase done, it should take care of 50% of the major violators in the county that we've indicated since 1998. Old subdivisions, small towns, things like that. There's still little towns here, there. Most of them aren't more than 30 houses that we have to collect. But the second phase here for Churubusco is a huge issue for us. We've been dealing with it like a long time. If I get on my knees, I would plead. But yes, I just want to speak. It's a huge, huge issue for Whitley County getting Churubusco on sewer, not only for the residents there to be able to sell their homes, for remodeling, all that good stuff, but also for the future whenever there may be further government regulations on streams and rivers in our county. Having that completed will be a huge win for Whitley County, just my 2 cents.
Thank you, Scott. So are you here today with an ask? Are you here to ask for something today?
We'd like to ask for, and I know in the original request, we asked for somewhere in between $500,000 to $1 million. We would like to have that $1 million to get that much closer to the making phase two debt-free as well. And so we'd ask for a favorable pass to
And
council.
that's on page 3 of our memo, the last paragraph. Total ARP investment would be, the request is $1,025,000, which is really supporting $11 million worth of infrastructure, because we're still considering phase one and phase two as a single project. The entire project's been approved by the state revolving fund program. We're just now into how we're going to finance this. And I have seen this on the past when the local entities provide funding, it increases our chances of getting good funding from them. They like to see the local participation. And, we're just saying, really that $1,025,000 isn't just phase one or phase two, it's over the entire project. And that total cost of that project is $11 million.
Yeah, I think the one drawback is not knowing the cost, right? Like we can say, sure, we'll earmark $1,025,000, but we don't know if it's only going to cost 200,000, So I think that's kind of the drawback, or maybe the way I'm looking at it. Like I don't want to over contribute. Not that it's not important; it is important. I just don't want to like promise so much money in excess when those are finances that could be used somewhere else.
Just a comment I'll just throw out, we will have those hard costs by the end of this year. And I know you have to make commitments now, but I think if we got to the point and we got it bid, then we're gonna know exactly what we need. And if we don't need all of that, we would certainly, I think, say, okay, we don't need it all. And I think you'd still have enough time in your plan maybe to move some funding commitments around at that point.
If we made a commitment at that point, could we just say that we'll commit up to the 1.025?
Sure, I feel comfortable with that.
Yeah, and then, like I said, our goal would just be to be debt free. So if it comes in that's only 600,000,
Right,
you know,
I get it.
we're definitely, well, as you know, with ARP money too, we can't just go spend it how we please anyway. So.
Right. And we want to be good stewards of that money
Oh, very much so.
and use it wisely. And I think this is a wise way to use those funds. I'm in favor of the county giving a contribution from the ARP money to the regional sewer district. I just, at this time, and I'm unsure of it because I don't know exactly how much you actually need, right?
Yeah, based off the phase one of the project, right, with the bids coming in almost to the dollar of what JPR estimated it, as long as inflation doesn't continue at its current rate, I think we'll be pretty on target. But it's a gamble right now with the numbers.
Well, I think discussing the art funds, just for the record, I've stated before, the American Rescue Plan, I was against. Our country's in terrible debt, but unfortunately under this administration, it passed. So we were given this money that our kids and grandkids and probably great grandkids are going to have to pay for. So initially, I was very against giving any money to the project for the simple fact, if you can write down the addresses of where these funds are going to go to and the exact people that it's going to help, I don't see how that's enriching the whole county. However, by doing this, we do extend a lot of utilities out there. So if developers wanted to come in and put in a new subdivision or something like that, there's nothing in the plans for that right now. But if that were, and we are in desperate need of housing as well. And then that would also further our tax base and enrich the entire community, as well as helping some of the citizens that we have. And these people, it's not a choice for them. They're being told that they have to connect. So to get that price down and to help you guys out. And Chad, I just want to say thank you so much. I know you don't get paid for doing what you're doing. And this is like a part-time job, what you're doing right now, getting this done. So I'm so thankful for that. So with that piece, and since I can see a view as to how this is helping the entire county as well as Whitley County residents right now, I would be glad to earmark that money for you guys. And if you don't need that entire amount, we can put that money elsewhere. And also we will be presenting an art plan on what we are going to do with those funds soon. So I would be in favor of earmarking the entire amount that they need.
Could I just kind of to address what you said a little bit? I think it's important also to understand that, going to what Scott's point is, that I agree with what you're saying, is it seems like, you know, you're tying it to a specific project and community, and there is the benefit that you talked about increasing ultimately the viability of those areas for development. But the other part of it is that when Scott's talking about violations, he's talking about sewage in our waterways, and that literally affects our entire county. And if we don't do with something about that, either the EPA or IDEM is going to make us. And so by continuing to be out in front and do this countywide sewer district, and then the commissioners supporting that, hopefully keeps them off our back. And hopefully also, as a result, makes our waterways cleaner, which improves the quality of life literally for everyone in this county. So I just think that's an important point. We're not just doing this to do it. We're doing it literally because
The state's telling
roadside
us,
ditches,
right.
we've got sewage. And you know, that's not what we want to pass to our children or grandchildren. Same as the money, but we also don't want to pass that condition on to the rest of the community. So
Yep, I think we all agree. And So I don't know if we need to take any official action today, but just do know that we've had conversation and we do intend to earmark, as George said, up to that $1,025,000.
Okay. So do we need to present to council again tomorrow or Wednesday, I should say?
So what we need to do, our next step is we need to present an ARP plan to council and get their approval.
Okay.
But it does include that.
Okay.
Just for your full awareness. And maybe I'll have a chat with Tim Comfort, the council president, and see how he feels about you coming Tuesday morning. Maybe they won't.
Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday morning. Thank you.
Because we did pass along the same information to council as
Yeah.
well. So, or Tiffany or Cammy did. What of them?
But we can let you know.
Okay, sounds great. Well, thanks a lot for your time. Appreciate
Sure,
it.
thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we'll go to Janelle Schmitt and Sheriff Gatton for dispatch radio consoles discussion.
Good afternoon. I am back for the Motorola radio consoles for our dispatch center. Come to you and then go to council. I sent the updated quote to everybody, so you have that. It's 48,000 more than the original that was wrote back in October. And that's due to inflation, costs rising for everything. Do you want me to go over the benefits of the radio consoles again, or are you guys?
You know what? I think it might be a good idea to do that just for a
Okay,
refresher
I can
because
do
it's
that.
been a little bit since I've thought
Couple
about it.
months, Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Motorola system, they will upgrade at year 3, 5, and 9. Our current one updates as necessary for the equipment. The software is updated annually. Motorola services 92 counties, all 92 counties on the F6 system, which we currently use for 800. The consoles that we are requesting to purchase, 28 Indiana counties have those. Currently, we are one of four on our current system, 380 worldwide for our current console. Motorola will monitor them 24/7. Right now, they're just monitored during business hours. After hours, we know there's a problem when it doesn't work. So then we have to call them in. Motorola has a tech that lives in the county. Typically, they don't respond on site. They can fix whatever they need to fix remotely. But should he need to come, he's pretty close, lives in the county. They connect directly to the state, a wireline console. The consoles we have now use consolettes. So those are just like car radios. That's what they look like in the back radio room. That's how we connect to the state. So a wireless console, which is what we have now, if there's somebody else using that channel, we get a busy, so we can't use it. A wireline, the console takes precedence. So that if we have an emergency, we need to get out to the guys, we can override them. Right now, we cannot patch other counties or other systems with us. So if we have a pursuit that heads into Allen County, we have to rely on Allen County to patch us all together so that the guys are not trying to turn the radio channel to where they need to be. They can patch us all together. We would like that capability just for critical incidents. They don't have to worry about what channel they're on. It will all link together. Therefore, use one talk group so we don't get as many busy signals. Wireline consoles have a reduction in RF interference. Right now, we get that a lot. It's foggy out, so your radios aren't working. It's snowing, so your radios aren't working. That will eliminate that problem. We can never eliminate all risk, but we need to improve the circumstances. We need to reduce it, and this will help reduce the risk to the guys. They guarantee reception of emergency alarms. So our panic buttons, We'll have times that Huntington will call us or the city will call us and say, hey, have you guys heard from your officer? He's hitting his panic button. Well, it doesn't come to us because we're on the radio. This will allow it to come to us right away. So another county doesn't have to call us and say, need to check on your guy, he's hitting his panic button. And then, you know, I liken it to your car. An old car might get you from point A to point B, but with new technology, improving safety, that's when you need to upgrade. So you can keep your family safe.
So just one question that I've had a couple of people ask. So if we purchase it and it is put into the current jail
Mhm.
and then the new jail's built, I know you said they can come move it.
Yes.
How much would that cost? Do we know?
We don't know, and I don't think they would be able to give us that price now just because we don't know. I mean, it's several years down the road and that also goes with inflation. But it can be moved. You know, if you buy the consoles now, that's a price that you don't have to pay. We need them now. Yeah, our current consoles can move to the new jail, but they're not effective now. So it's a necessity. Keep our guys safe.
What's the remaining term on the service agreement on the consoles?
3 years. And I didn't bring that with me, but I can email it to you.
The reason I ask is just because there's been a lot of conversation, a lot of concern about buying them now and then moving them to a new dispatch center later. And as you know, I've been in favor of the purchase of these new consoles. But I also think there's maybe some validity in some of the concerns about why buy them now when there's still a service agreement term remaining on what you have now that's still working. Why not buy it when you're building out your new dispatch center?
Come and talk to me. We've had J&K in a lot. They were in Saturday and Sunday. They're working on it again today. It'd probably be easier to list the days they're not working on our system as opposed to the days
Sure.
they.
And again, as you know, I'm in favor. I just don't know that I'm in favor of making a favorable or unfavorable pass today. And maybe I should wrap up the meeting and come over and hear from you.
Is that, I mean, if the service agreement is not, if they're not meeting their obligations, I mean, is there, I guess, the alternative exploring whether we can get out of that agreement? I understand what you're saying. You want to play for 3 years of something that we're not going to use. Right. And we haven't talked about that, but maybe it's a way to look at it is. I think I've seen that agreement, but it's been a bit. Because we would still have to pay for it for 3 years, even if we terminate it now, right? That's what I assume you were saying.
Yep.
So I think, I know that you guys definitely need it, and it's extremely disheartening to hear that our officers are hitting their panic button and we're not responding to them. I'm not okay with that. And I do realize that it's going to be a couple years before the new jail is up and running. However, our officers' safety isn't something that I want to wait on. So I would like to give you guys a favorable pass.
And again, I'm willing to take 200,000 out of 911 to help with the cost.
And that would bring it down to the 223 that we have here. Okay.
No.
No.
Do you have the new one in front of you?
Oh, I'm sorry, the 526.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I was looking at the extended warranties.
Trump.
I guess my thought is, if we're having that much problem, if we truly are having that much problem with the consoles, I'd be willing to for the 325,000, 326,000. My concern is having to move them after we've got them in service. So I guess I would be in favor of the purchase of the equipment.
So I'd entertain a motion then for a favorable or unfavorable pass to council. And of course, knowing that there's a commitment for 200,000 from 911, is that what it comes from?
Yes.
I'll make a motion for a favorable pass to council minus the $200,000 out of 911 fund.
I'd second.
You have a motion and a second. Anything further? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. And opposed, the same. Thank you. Next on the agenda is Kim Erdly.
Good afternoon. I'm just here for my yearly visit to have our PTABOA members approve claims. I sent you a list. Our plan is to retain Greg Ball, Jeff Walker, and Teresa Sedaris to our Property Tax Assessment Board of Appeals for 2023.
Okay,
I'll make, oh, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2023 PTABOA members is Greg Fall, Jeff Walker, and Teresa Sedaris.
Second?
you have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand.
Great.
Let it be shown that that
Thank
passes
you.
unanimously. On your agenda, you'll see the next item is the driving and vehicle use policy. We're going to table that today. We've not heard, we don't have our legal review finished yet, so that'll come back up later. We'll move on to Scott Wagner, ordinance for exemptions.
Thank you again for your commitment to the sewer district. It means a lot personally to me, all the work that we put into it. Now here today to talk about a ordinance that we have not had in place before. We have a septic system ordinance on installations of septic systems in the county, but not on sanitary sewer connections and our role that we would play in sanitary sewer connections. And all previous years, sewer connections been with municipalities. They've done their inspections. They would give me a list of septic tank abandonments, and I go out there for free and make sure all those tanks are abandoned properly. With the sewer district plans coming up in the next several years, we thought it's important to have in place lots of things in the ordinance, including sewer exemptions that are placed in there, since we do have existing state and local laws on those, and then also the laws changing at the state. So we may have to deal with some changes for the next year or two on that. I had not only health department, Liz Deckard, attorney, went through this and created this ordinance from Allen County's ordinance, but also has spoke with and referenced Matt and those discussions. So Matt, you want to talk about it?
So in our meetings that, and I think Scott or I may have brought this up at the last meeting, but the legislature has created kind of a checklist of how the exemption process should happen, but they didn't give us enough specificity for Scott to understand, or not, he knows what he's supposed to do, but to make it so it's a uniform set of rules, or how do we go through this process? So I didn't feel fair, frankly, to Scott and or to homeowners to not have everybody understand what that process would look like. Because, as part of this sewer district coming in, somebody who has a functioning system that works properly pursuant to the statute should have the ability to get that exemption, and not just have it be kind of on a whim. It should be based on a set list of criteria. So that's really what this is meant to accomplish, is to make it, give Scott a handbook to follow. He kind of already knew what he was going to do, but ultimately there wasn't a rule. So now we've got hopefully a rule that creates a clear and open playing field that everybody knows what the rules are. And so not a lot of counties have adopted these ordinances. Allen County did. And so that was a really an easy, good one for us to kind of go and capture. And there's not significant changes, I don't think, really. I didn't read it word for word, but it's pretty modeled off of Allen County.
They've had a sewer district, regional sewer district in their county for 30 years. So they've kind of led in Northeast Indiana on how to do this. Now that we're doing these things, we need to follow suit so that, like you said, there's a clear distinction of what needs to happen and all the process. So people approaching the department, I can give them a copy of it and say, this is what we expected of you during this, and this may be the cost. So you need to contact a pumping truck and look at water testing, because we want to be very careful going out to a house that's been there for 10 or more years with the septic system, because best of our abilities to monitor properties, I don't see everything. And so we don't know if they didn't done any maintenance on their septic, if they've done anything that has altered the septic without our knowledge. And so we put the county at a huge liability by going out and saying, oh yeah, your septic's legal and fine, when we really don't have a lot of knowledge there. So the process has to be very detailed so that we take away as much liability as possible, so that we're not implicated in approving a septic that fails recently after that approval. We don't want to do something that's wrong and overlook a process. So that's why it's so detailed, so that we are not putting the county in a lot of liability. Because when I go out and inspect a new septic system installed, I can see it right now. I can see, measure everything, it's uncovered. But something that's been in existence for a long time, we don't know what they've put down the drain. We don't know if they've ever pumped the tanks. We don't know if they put a tile out to the ditch somewhere that I can't see. So we want to make sure that we're covered by that. I'm sure in the forms that I'll create, that they give option in there for applications, something like that, we'll still have disclaimers in there for people to sign those that say, you know, to best of my knowledge, this is accurate, true information, because again, we can't cover everything. So.
And is the goal to still have a third party do these for the
Yes.
liability and for the work extra workload this would have on your
So
department?
the pumping of the septic tank would have to be by an IDEM licensed septic pumper. They would have to set that up, let me know the time they're coming so I can be there when that's being done. Water testing has to be done through a state laboratory, all those things. So I would be on site for those exemptions, but much of the work would be done by a third party in one form or the other. The ordinance does go into further explain about inspections. It does reference that most inspections of new sewer connections will be done by the municipality that's receiving the sewage. So in this case, say Stable Acres. When the sewer's installed, most of the time, their inspectors would look at sewer connections. It does give the option that the county could do that at some point in the future, authorize health department personnel to do inspections, but there would be a cost to that process as well. It does, however, allow the health department to come on the property when those sewers be connected, even if it's being done by a third party. So there's also that addition in here as well. It's fairly elaborate.
Typically, the way that that process would work is once the system is built, there will be, people start doing those connections, and in other sewer districts have been a part of, we've just contracted with somebody. When we did one in Noble County, Jason, is it Pippinger?
Yes.
Yep, Jason Pippinger, who is the Scott of Noble County, ended up being that inspector that the sewer district hired, but it was outside of his job because it's a whole bunch of additional work. And so I don't, Scott and I haven't even talked about whether that is something ultimately he'd want to do evenings and weekends and whatever. But if not, then basically you'll pay $50, $75 for the inspector to come and inspect your connection. And that is not typically, the sewer district at least is not contemplating Scott's going to do that for free.
And typically, like Aqua, they have their own inspectors that do that, so does Columbia City. So doubtful this first phase would be that case. We don't know about Chubasco, but typically the municipality receiving it does do their own inspections. But we can verify those things. I probably will be called out several times on issues that are out there.
And because of the unique way in which we're doing this project, that may be the way it's, because in essence, we're building it, connecting it, and turning it over to Aqua Columbia City. So it may make sense that they want to do exactly what Scott said, is they just want to do the inspections, which is great, because then we don't have to pay somebody to do it. They're the ones that's getting in anyway, so
So are there fees involved with that then at that point?
there could be,
Yeah, we've
if
done
it's,
inspections.
yeah,
We've only
if
done tank abandonments.
if the utility, like a Columbia City says, and I don't know what their ordinance says, or if Aqua's rules, I don't think they do. It's just, what I was speaking about is previous other sewer districts have been involved in when we built them. We had to hire somebody to do that job, and that was just a pass through that the homeowner would pay it. Hopefully, in this case, we can just have Aqua or Columbia City do it as part of the process. And
That's usually what they charge that fee for up front, is to do a lot of that.
Okay.
but that's the connection side, not the does it work conversation, which is really what we're more focused on today, is testing an existing system to see if it meets the requirements set down by the state.
And Matt, I'm sorry.
No, please.
Did you say that you had gone through this line by line and everything looked
I
okay?
didn't see any problems with it. It is really, really consistent with Allen County, and they've been using this for a long time. So it's flushed out, hopefully, things that, you only learn by using. And so it may be that over time we have to adopt this or modify this like other ordinances, but I think this is a really good start, and it is possible between now and your next commissioner meeting that we may need to use this. We don't currently have one, but we need to get the system in place. And if as we get going, we realize, okay, maybe we don't need to do that, we do that, we can amend the ordinance through time. But this is a really good start, I think. And it's based off of what Allen County's been doing for a long time.
So legally, you
Yeah,
look good.
it's
And
fine legally. I
Scott,
just
you
need more of
agree,
a
I'm assuming that.
percent.
It's like I said, it's very elaborate, it spells out things. It should make it very clear to homeowners who want to approach the sewer exemption, what their responsibility would be. Right now, I can't tell them any of it.
I don't have any issues passing it today, Commissioner Banks.
I was just going to say, to your point, Scott, it is very elaborate. And if I'm completely honest, I have not read it. I came in and it was on my desk today. It's not your fault that I didn't see it until today, but I didn't see it until today. So I don't know that I feel comfortable voting for it, not having time to go line by line through it.
As we sit here today, at least we don't think we have an exemption which would trigger the need for this. And so if you need until May 16th, I think, to do it, now the issue only will become if we have a wrinkle there, then we're going to be operating without rules if it doesn't pass on that May 16th. So I guess if any of you, if you want to table it, and if any of you see anything that you want to work through, let's work through it prior to the meeting, because we probably need to have something by then. Then we will be a
It'll
little
give us
bit.
12 days to do exemptions.
Yeah, I feel a lot more comfortable about holding off. With nothing against Allen County, they do a lot of things well, but this is Whitley County, not Allen County. So I would want to review it and make sure that I agree with some of the terms that we put in here as far as fees and that sort of thing.
Right, and this was not gone before the fee committee because it was such a push to get this done, so.
But even, for the time that we had for this, it's still, I'd like to have some explanation from Scott too. So I would motion that we do a table on the sewer ordinance.
Second.
Okay, we'll try to second. Any further discussion? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. And tabling passed unanimously.
If I may, just a few things, a heads up for future meetings. I brought to Matt's desk and have had Liz and the health board vote on all these. We have a weights and measures ordinance to look at here in the future. This coming January will be 20 years that we've been doing weights and measures for the county. We've never had an administrative ordinance in place for that, so we can take a look at those things. As per your request last year, we have a lodging ordinance that has passed the health board, and so that will be coming to you at some point here in the near future. for you to look at that as well once Matt gets through it, which is very extensive. We have wanted to add a paternity fee for Laura, who does fraternities, which takes quite a bit of time of her own. Other counties do that. We'll show you all that information, and then some minor changes to the food ordinance because of state legislature. And lastly, previous commissioners have said that they want us to replace our big vehicles every 3 years. So I have reached out to both Ford and Chevy both about replacement of the weights and measures truck for the 2023 calendar year. And we should be getting numbers here at the end of May for that. Right now, we could get 15,000 more from what we paid for it. So,
Yeah, but what's,
that was
the new
2.5
one?
years ago.
What's the new one gonna cost?
We
though?
don't know. So yeah, that's what we'll know more at. So in June or so, I'll come back and kind of let the numbers, what it looked like at the end of the year to trade in our existing vehicle for a newer one. We probably will not have to pay anything if not. That should be it. So we do have a big agenda in the next few months on different things for you.
Sure.
Thank
Well,
you,
thank
Scott.
you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the Wagner, Irwin, and Shealy annual wage salary analysis. Is someone here to speak to that? I mean, I have limited knowledge.
So this is on your agenda because I'm seeking approval to proceed to have WIS do a salary analysis. They recommended back in 2018-19 when we first contracted with them that we do an annual salary analysis, and the personnel committee discussed it, and they felt like to do it annually was a little too much, but they would like to do one every 3 to 4 years. So being as it's been now 3 years, I'm seeking approval to proceed to do that. And I believe you have their proposal there. It will cost between $8,800 and $10,000.
Has there been any conversation about the elected officials and how maybe they could be addressed in this as well? I know that it's limited because their job descriptions are driven by state statute and can only be compared to counties our size, counties our region. But I guess, I think when we first re-engaged with WIS, which we did business with them long ago, and then we didn't for a while, and then we did again in 2018, 17, I can't remember now. We did a lot of things right, but I'll be the first to admit maybe we did something wrong by not addressing those elected officials as well. So has there been any conversation about doing anything?
Not directly with WIS, but we can definitely address that. It may increase the cost. I don't know. That's definitely something that could be addressed.
Okay. And I have no problem with like a maintenance or, you know, with them reevaluating. I have no problem with that. I think it makes sense to pay to keep it maintained instead of letting it go for so long that it costs a whole lot more to bring it back.
Right, exactly. And I would like to see it in the budget too, every,
Yeah,
like I said, 3 to 4 years. So
I would just strongly request that
Sure.
we do something for those who don't necessarily fit into their scope of service.
Sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think when we first presented that to WIS, that we should have had the elected officials in that, and we didn't. But I would ask that we do this time.
Okay. Sure. So I'm not sure if I have it on the agenda for council as well. I wasn't really sure how to go about that, but I think there's money budgeted and consultation under the commissioners. I don't know if you have an idea of where that should come from, or you want to discuss it later.
Well, I'm sure we have funds available in professional services. I know that we have a line in our legal budget as well for Wagner, Irwin, and Shealy, which, you know, they're not exactly legal, but they do advise us on salaries and that sort of thing. So there may be some funds there as well. So I'm quite certain that we can afford this without trying to find the money too hard.
I'd make a motion that we approve a favorable pass for this to the council.
I'll second that with discussion. I know you had mentioned elected officials being included. Would that be with an amendment including them or passing this as is and then voting on the additional cost?
I would amend my original motion to approve or to add the elected officials in that also.
I'll second that.
Okay. And we don't even know if they'll be agreeable to that because in the past they were resistant to that. But I would just strongly encourage that somehow we address those in this process. But I'm in favor as well, and I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. And that passes unanimously.
Thank you.
The ARP plan ordinance discussion.
So go ahead.
No, is that your item? Did you ask for that?
I did not.
Or is somebody else here to speak to that?
That was something I worked with Amy on after we discussed when BakerTilly was here. They recommended putting through the ordinance. They were here for our comprehensive draft. And it's just something that they sent to us to put on and see if that's something you guys would want to move forward with. So I sent it out, never heard back. So I just threw it on the agenda for public to know that it's an option.
Yeah, so that is, that would be taking the entire ARP funds and counting it as lost revenue, right? But when you do that, then you wouldn't be able to use those funds for any of those categories because those the ARP categories then are not considered lost
And
revenue.
that might be, I was discussing with Cammie, it might be a discussion for them tomorrow when they're here, because that's
Wednesday.
not the way they explained it to me on the phone. He said you
Okay.
couldn't do this if you find other projects later, because that's how you build your plan, that it can be changed, but I don't want to
Right.
speak from that,
Right.
really on that, so.
My fear would be that if we passed this ordinance, then we would lock ourselves into a commitment and then not be able to use those funds for some of the infrastructure projects that we've spoken about. So,
I agree.
Yeah, I agree with
I
that
think that
also.
we should come up with a solid plan and present it to council and see what they have to say rather than passing this and then going back. Because I think at some point we're going to have to ask for their approval on it. So I think going to them one time would be smarter.
yeah. Discussion on that. Next up is the BakerTilly budget assistance and analysis requests. I believe that's you.
Also during that draft review, they let us know that they work with newly elected auditors on figuring out budgets. So I'm coming to you guys to seek approval for assistance with the budget process this year. I know a little bit, but I also don't want to put the county in a bad spot for not knowing enough. So I'm coming to you asking approval to use them with the budget cycle. And I know there's an up to $15,000. There's a lot in here that I'm not going to need. So that number will obviously go down. I can't give you the exact number of what it would cost, but it would definitely be well under the 15,000.
I've been very impressed with BakerTilly and the services that they provide and their knowledge, and that I would have no problem whatsoever in having them come alongside us during this budget process. I'm in favor of it.
I agree. The budget isn't something that we want to make any mistakes on. And I know this is obviously your first time as auditor going through the budget, so I would support it.
I'd be in favor of it also. Do you know where you want to get the monies from, or?
I know my line items are all tapped, so I can come back to council and ask for additional if you guys would like me to ask for it out of my budget. It's, I guess, kind of up to you guys if you have extra that you would like to take it out of. Any of your own, or
I guess if we want to talk about professional services, I know that we have all of the engineering departments, professional services coming out of there. Since we no longer have a highway engineer, we have to have a third party assist us with that. That was not budgeted for when we made this year's budget, so that's coming out of the commissioner's professional services budget. So I think that might be getting, I don't know where we're at on that, but I don't know if it would be smarter for us to ask for additional funds from council and ours, so we don't have to and then pay for that out of, because that's an entire county service that Tiffany's providing.
So just for clarification, then Tiffany would go and ask for an additional one for budget.
But I don't, did you want to ask for more
If
in ours?
we're asking for an additional, I
and then
think
we
it would
could
be
pay
more
for it.
appropriate to ask for an additional in your budget. Especially because then come around budget time, they can see, what the money was utilized for, and maybe that's something you'd want to budget for again and again.
well, I'm hoping it's not something that I'll need to, but
Right.
at least for sure.
But
This first
It'd be
year.
nice to have those funds in your budget just in case, I think.
I can do that.
So then do we want to do a favorable pass, or do you want to move forward with that?
I think a favorable pass would be appropriate. Do you need a motion for that?
Yes. please.
I'll make a motion for a favorable pass for the BakerTilly assistance with the 2023 budget.
And I'll second that.
Motion is second. Anything further? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Passes unanimously as well. Next up, we do have a couple facilities requests. Let's start with the farmer's market. So the first farmer's market is this Saturday morning, first one of the season. And so this facilities request would run through October 29th. And they're requesting from 7:30 a.m. until 1 p.m. And that would include some signs in the yard and the courthouse lawn. And, I think the two things that aren't listed here is one, and I think was Mark here, the power at the gazebo, is that something that's normally included?
That they have to go to the city for that.
Okay. So that was one thing that they were looking for. And then the other thing, they'd like use of the drive on the east side of the court, or that'd be west, rather, the west approach to the courthouse. I had a conversation with Tom LaRue, and while that's a fire lane, as long as there's not permanent structures, he's really has no issue with them using that for, they're calling it like a kid alley, where there's going to be children's activities. And so the fire department has no issue. And my thought is, oftentimes there are vehicles parked there during the day anyway. I'm not really sure what harm there would be if they used that approach on the west side. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
I don't. I think they've always been respectful of our property in years past. I know I've definitely been to the farmer's market, and I think it's a great thing that our county has. So as long as they're respectful of the county property, I'm fine with it.
Yes, my question is, did they check with Mark beforehand, stir the event? That,
There's been an email thread. There's been some email traffic, and
okay.
Mark had asked that they not use that approach. But again, I had a conversation with Tom LaRue, and he said it's a non-issue. And so while I respect Mark's opinion, I disagree. And I think it'd be a perfect spot to be utilized for the kid zone.
Sure.
Why did Mark not agree with it?
Because it's a fire lane.
the city fire chief is okay with it?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay,
They just
then-
can't have permanent structures. It needs to be something that can be moved
Yeah,
easily.
I
So,
knew that he had issues with it before, but
I know Tom, and Tom, if there's any issues at all, he will say no. So if
Yeah.
Tom says it's okay, I believe it's okay.
And again, if you drive by on any given day, there are maintenance vehicles parked in the lane anyway. What's the difference if you set up some temporary tents or awnings or whatever and have it be a kid's zone?
okay.
So I'd be in favor of passing this one. I'd entertain a motion for the farmer's market request.
Make a motion to approve the request as presented.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Anything further? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. And that passes unanimously. The second one is the Ministerial Association. This would be for the use of the gazebo on the 5th, on May 5th, which I believe is this Thursday. And this is for National Day of Prayer. So this would be the 11 a.m. until 1:30 p.m. So this would be the lunch hour prayer at the gazebo. That's what's being requested.
I have no issues with it. I believe they use it every year.
Yeah. I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? And opposed? That's unanimous. And next item on the agenda would be payroll and accounts payable claims approval.
Yeah, I had a chance this morning to take a look at payroll. Payroll looked great, Ed. I didn't see any problems at all. Thank you, Tiffany. And I'd make a motion that we approve payroll claims as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. And opposed? Passes unanimously.
Then I had a chance to go through accounts payable claims. I did not see anything unusual, and I would make a motion that we approve accounts payable claims.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. And the last item on the agenda today is the previous meeting minutes for our April 18th, 2022 meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as presented.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Is there anything that anyone from the audience would like to add today? Tiffany, anything you'd like to add?
Just, I know I emailed them, let you guys know our audit is starting. We're underway. They'll be in the building probably 2 to 3 days a week. Here we go.
Do we know yet when the kickoff meeting will be?
They have not said anything about a meeting yet. She's in, Bailey will be the one that's facilitating again. She'll be Wednesday, Thursday this week. So I'm assuming I'll find out one of those 2 days while she's here.
Okay.
When the meeting will be.
Okay. Commissioner Schrumpf,
Nothing.
Commissioner Basinger?
I just want to remind everybody, tomorrow's election day, so if you didn't vote early, the polls are open 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. tomorrow.
And I would just add to that, thank you to the poll workers.
Yes, I've worked the polls. It's a very, very long day.
Yes, we're very grateful for those who've risen to that occasion. The only thing that I would have to add is that it's National Correctional Officers Week, started on May 1st, and it goes through May 7th. And I just wanted to say that the county is very grateful for our correctional officers, both at the Whitley County Jail and at Whitley County Community Corrections, and for all the work that they do. And just wanted the minutes to reflect that we appreciate them. And that's all I have. So I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.